Hey everybody, this is Tim with Op-Ed Daily. So I'd like to talk again about this refugee crisis that's going on. And I'd like to point out that this was predicted 4 years ago. Okay, in 2011, Gaddafi said that if Libya were to fall, Europe would turn black from the amount of refugees coming from Africa and also from the Middle East, and that the Mediterranean would basically be chaos. He said that. Now, at the time, the mainstream media tried to just say that it was psychological warfare, but he meant what he said, and he was actually correct, because look what's happening now. And then let's fast forward to February of this year. February of this year, ISIS came out and said that they were going to send 500,000 militants into the Western nations, specifically Europe, and they were going to do so by claiming that they were refugees. And what better way to topple a nation and to turn it into something than to erode it from the inside out? Because imagine all of these people, these refugees come in, they get set up in the countries, they just bide their time, and then all of a sudden, boom, they just start unleashing everything. So a couple of things will happen when that happens. All of the freedoms of the normal citizens, the everyday citizens, would be completely removed, because the governments would be so hell-bent on trying to figure out who was a terrorist and who wasn't a terrorist that they would just spy on anything and everything that you do. So that's one of the things that would erode freedom across the nations. The other would be guerrilla warfare within civilized nations. These people aren't going to be conventional in their warfare. They're going to go around and do what they do. They're going to go around and bomb things. They're going to go around and, use subterfuge to get everything the way that they want it, to create chaos. Because when there's chaos, it's a lot easier to take things over. Now, I still want to go back to Libya now. Back in 2011, I want to point something out that many people aren't aware of. The Libyan civil war was actually created by NATO. Okay, NATO was supporting the Islamist terrorists that created the, quote, civil war in Libya. That's right. They were supporting them with helicopters, arms, training, communication, and even the U.S. took part in that. U.S. is part of NATO. They took part in that. Now, what Gaddafi was afraid of and what happened, he was afraid that Hillary Clinton was going to do what they did under George Bush in Iraq and then make all of these outlandish claims, such as weapons of mass destruction. But in the case of Gaddafi, it was genocide and mass murder, which she did. And they put it out to the American people that he was doing all of these things to his own people, which was a complete and total lie. And they did it. They got those U.S. and NATO-backed rebels to take over the country, topple it, and now it's in chaos, which opened the floodgates for all of these refugees to come across. This was pre-planned years ago. They had all this figured out long before, and right now you're just seeing it come to a head. That's what's happening here. Now, I also want to point out that a lot of people have this incorrect notion about Gaddafi. So there's a few things that I think everybody needs to know about Gaddafi and how much he loved the people of his country. So first of all, in Libya, a home was considered a natural human right. According to Gaddafi's Green Book, which is his philosophical, political ideologies or whatever, quote, "The house is a basic need of both the individual and the family, therefore it should not be owned by others." And homes were a right in Libya. Education and medical treatment were free. And if you couldn't get the proper education or proper medical treatment in Libya, they would pay for you to go somewhere else and get it. Gaddafi had carried out the world's largest irrigation project. He called it the eighth wonder of the world. It was is known as the Great Man-Made River, and it was designed to make water readily available to all Libyans across the country. It was free to start a farming business. If you wanted to start a farm, they would give you a house, farmland, livestock, and seeds, and it was free. A bursary was given to mothers with newborn babies. So if a mother just had a child, they'd get the equivalent of 5,000 US dollars for herself and her child. They didn't pay for electricity in Libya. It was free. Their petrol was extremely cheap. Gas, what have you. It was about 14 cents, and that's US dollars, 14 cents per liter. And Gaddafi even raised the level of education in his country. Before Gaddafi took over in 69, there was only 25% literacy rate in Libya. After, he brought that figure up to 87%, with 25% of Libyans earning a college degree. They also had their own state bank, and it provided loans to citizens at 0% interest, and that was by law, and there was no external debt within that bank. Now, here's the last thing that I would like to mention, and this is probably the reason why Hillary Clinton, and likely Barack was behind this as well, but the global elites altogether anyway. He was producing what's called the gold dinar. The gold dinar was actually made out of gold, and what it was going to be was an African currency linked directly to gold, following in the footsteps of Marcus Garvey, who had first coined the term of United States of Africa. Gaddafi wanted to introduce an only trade in the African gold dinar. Of course, that might have thrown the world economy into a clusterfuck, if you will. Now, the dinar was opposed by the elite, obviously, because that would mean that there would be this actual currency with an actual monetary value instead of just fiat currency. And fiat currencies are just bullshit. This would have liberated Africa from the exploitation of outside forces. That right there, whenever this plan was put into motion, that's the reason, or that's when NATO decided to go in there and attack them. So it's not really hard to tell what's going on here. Because let's face it, all of the things that I just listed about Gaddafi shows that he really gives a shit about his people, or at least he did before he was killed. Then you look at Iraq. As soon as Iraq started talking about trading outside of the petrodollar, boom, we invaded Iraq. Libya. Soon as Libya starts creating its own currency backed by gold, boom, we go in there and screw Libya up, get rid of Gaddafi, and look what you have now. Russia, China, Brazil, India, South Africa, they created the BRICS Bank. The BRICS Bank is going to be designed to start trading outside of the US dollar. Look at all the provocation that we see with Russia and China. It's always something. Oh, China's hacking us. Oh, they're always hacking us. They're stealing all of our information. And Russia, oh, look what Russia's doing in Ukraine. Holy crap, they let those people vote themselves out of Ukraine. That's terrible. We can't have that. Now Russia's going over into Syria. What do you think is going to happen? And now you're seeing all of these refugees flooding into Europe. Germany just announced they were going to accept 800,000. Sweden, people in Sweden are protesting, wanting them to do more to help the refugees coming out of these war-torn countries. You know, and I understand the compassion involved behind that. But they also need to understand that there are problems with this as well. It's a Trojan horse. That's basically what this is. It was predicted back in 2011. It was reintroduced in February of this year, and now it's happening. When things start happening and it's over and over and over again, it stops being coincidence, and it starts becoming factual. Every time a nation starts to move away from the dollar, somehow we end up in a war with them. It's the way the global elite in this country do business. Because if you think that this government, the United States government, is actually run by politicians, then there's something wrong with you. It is not. The people that we elect are nothing more than corporate spokespeople. They are propped up, paid for, and put in front of everybody by the hands of the large corporations and the large banks. And that's just the way it is. If you can't see that, then you're not going to be able to see anything. And likely you're going to be one of the people caught up in the middle of the shit because you couldn't see it coming. Now, without going on a preaching rant, I'll go ahead and end it there. But I want everybody to go ahead and check out the links, because I'm going to link to everything that I've made claims about. This isn't conspiracy now. This is fact, backed up with video evidence, audio evidence, all of that stuff. So every claim that I've made here, I will link to that in the description below. If you have any comments, questions, concerns, please list that in the comment section. Share this video so that maybe others can understand exactly what's going on. This is sovereignty at stake here. Everybody's sovereignty is at stake here. This is Tim with Op-Ed Daily. Peace out.